Hello everyone, welcome back. I have a 5x7 photo that I'm going to be documenting today. These are my in-laws, my husband's parents when they were young. My mother-in-law Marianne is just her senior year in high school and this was their prom. So I'm going to be documenting this photo using the Sweet Memories collection. I feel that the kind of more vintage look and the colors are going to go really well with this photo. And it's so fun to look at this because my father-in-law Jake, when in his younger years like this, I really see my oldest son Hayden, and it's just kind of a trip to look at those photos and see the family resemblance. So these are beautiful papers and I cannot wait to cut into this collection. I already did show this in more detail in my catalog walkthrough. I've got them flipped over so you're looking at either side of the paper. These two are my favorite, and I'm a little bit bummed that the cameras are on the opposite side of the ledger paper, because I mean you get two and I just, it's like, oh man, now I gotta choose. It's not often that my two favorites end up on the same sheet of paper, so I'm sure I will be able to get more if I need it. But then you have these that are just nice little patterns that go along with the bolder patterns here. But let me go ahead and clean this up and grab my Versamat. Since I only have one photo, this is going to be a single page layout. I think I'm going to begin with a border of sage green cardstock. I'm actually inspired by a layout in the catalog. I'll show that to you here in just a moment. So I put a couple removable glue dots down on my mat to hold this in place. And then this is the layout that I really like. They've used one larger focal photo. That might be a 4x6. They've just added a lot of mats, giving it the illusion of a larger photo. But I think, this will be nice, and I love that they've included the ledger paper. I'm going to switch up the papers and of course the embellishments, but this is my inspiration. You can see they have it on the sage green cardstock in the back. There is a little bit of greenery in the plant foliage in the back there, and then on the trellis behind them there's sweet little ferns and rose vines climbing up the garden trellis. The inspiration layout starts with this ledger paper, and they have used just half of it, so they've strategically cut it to remove this piece here in the lower corner, which I just think is beautiful. And you can use that on another project, so you can see how they have divided that and added the pattern paper. I'm not sure if I want to do that or if I want to work that into my design and maybe remove this half of the layout. Having one larger photo definitely plays into that very nicely. It's a very tough choice. I do have a second paper, so I think I'll cut it here and just divide it down, kind of down the center. I did end up cutting this directly in half at 6 inches, and I might trim it so we have the border around the edge. I'm not sure yet. So let's bring this in and then choose the other patterns we want to use. So I've got all of these gorgeous pattern papers, and I also have bonus pattern papers. I did get the workshop option for the Sweet Memories collection, and it came with these additional papers. You get 2 of each. They are single-sided because they are designed to go with the pre-designed work layouts in the workshop, but I've got those also. And I think that I want to use this camera paper and the ledger paper for a more masculine layout in a future video. So I'm going to set those aside, and this is a great opportunity for me to use the more feminine, softer colors here with this photo. And so it's just a matter of kind of seeing which one works the best and jumps out at you. I don't want to do, the green on green, although you could just, not use cardstock and have all pattern paper. That'd be very pretty. And then this is gorgeous. So I want to have a couple layers behind here, like in the catalog example. And then there's this one here. Let me try one of these papers here. They've got the bonus pattern papers. I like the green. You know what? I do like the green with this photo better than this periwinkle color. I mean, they all look beautiful, but directly behind the photo, I think I like this one here. And I definitely want to bring in bits of this as well. So maybe those two, that might be gorgeous. I did cut this down to 6 by 8, so I've got a nice border, and you can see a lot of that pattern behind my 5 by 7 here. And then I went ahead and cut down, I decided to go with this pattern paper. I cut it so that the zip strip was still attached, and then this one is basically with the zip strip. We have about a 7 or 6 3/4 inch piece there, because again I did remove the border to have that mat all the way around. So I think that's going to look nice. I decided I cut this paper at 6 inches, so I could have made this one shorter, but I did not want the seam dead center behind my photo. I wanted it just slightly off, so that's why I made that a bit longer. Off camera, I went around and inked up all of the edges with black. I don't know if you can see that there, but I just defined everything, and then nothing is adhered down because I have some ideas for potentially stenciling or some stamping coming out from the side of the photo. This makes me very happy. All of these bits and pieces are from the workshop. They come in little 12 by 12 sheets, and you just pop those right out of the carrier sheet. So I went ahead and did that. And now I have all of this gorgeous ephemera to embellish with. I also have this sticker sheet. Now there are lots of title options on here. A Day to Remember, Sweet Memories, and Living the Dream. All of those would work as a title. There's this title here, but that's not quite right for this layout. But it's so nice having title options. They have paperboard shapes. Now this one is separate. There is a little paperboard shape that comes with the workshop, but this one I purchased additionally. And Lovely Day is in there, which is really nice. But I have a stamp set here. This is the Sweet Memories Scrapbooking stamp, and I love these titles, and I think I want to use this one, Photo Memories. The font looks really just distressed and kind of vintage to me, and I really like the text in the background there, so I'm going to go with that one possibly. It's so nice having all the options. This is the little paperboard shape set that comes with the workshop. So it's just kind of a smaller sampling of this one here. And then last but not least, I did cut out some shapes here. I was playing around with the digital collection, so I cut these out on my Cricut. So I've got a film strip, and then there's this beautiful intricate frame, and then a little swirly, and then this viewfinder, which I'm very excited about this. I cut that in mist, and then I have the white daisy layer over the top. So I'm pretty sure I want to use those. I'll show you where I got those. This is the digital art collection, and the film strip I pulled from this layout. So you can bring the whole layout into your canvas on Cricut Design or Silhouette, whatever you're using, and then just use the individual pieces. So there is the viewfinder, and then you can see the frame, and there's that little flourish there where they have kind of layered underneath this corner. So yeah, I just pulled bits and pieces. I cut a bunch to have on hand for cards and projects, but I do think I'm going to use these possibly on today's layout. So yes, lots of fun bits to work with here. So I recommend starting with your largest elements first, and in this case I've got this film strip and then the viewfinder. So I thought that this might look fun tucked underneath here, and you might be thinking black is a little bit harsh. There is not actually black in this paper. This is mist. It has like a charcoal look to it, but mist is kind of a blue, darker blue gray, but I like the black, and there's lots of black in the photo, and I think it just kind of punches it up. I know my crafty friend Amy over at Paper Therapy with Amy created some beautiful layouts with this collection, and she also brought black into hers, and it just looks really beautiful. So maybe if we layer this over, I think I'm going to put some of the flowers over. So let's tuck this under, and I am going to put this at an angle but keep my photo straight, which brings a little bit of order to, you know, the crooked piece beneath there. So I kind of like that. Actually, let me just bring these embellishments in so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And I introduced black with the film strip, and you'll notice there's no other black embellishments, but I do want to repeat that elsewhere on the layout. I cut several of these black little flourishes, and I thought these would be fun to tuck around the layout. And they are from the Sweet Memories card making workshop. And this is part of a card kit, but I got it because I love the doily and I love the little swirly, and I just think it's really pretty. I shared several vintage style cards in my catalog walkthrough with that stamp set, but I have since also created these, and you can see how pretty that little swirl looks tucked into the embellishment. And I think it really goes nice with floral elements like this. So there's another one there. The Hummingbird is a current stamp set too, but there's the doily and then the little flourish there. The flower is from the Hummingbird stamp, and there is another one, and I love this little frame here. I think that one's really fun too. But yeah, you can see how I've just tucked them in. So I've cut those in black, so we have those to work with. Now, one thing I would like to point out is I know some have a hard time using pre-printed designs like this on the paper, or they don't like pre-printed designs because they're kind of flat. I like to work them into my layouts by making the embellishment cluster kind of come to life by adding to it. So one way you could easily do that is take an embellishment. Now you'll notice it says Project 2. That's because it's from the workshop, and it is, designed to go with a specific project, but I just like to use the bits and pieces here. So just by adding a little bit of foam tape to the back, we're going to give some dimension and layering to this area. I'm going to pop it slightly over the photo and making sure that it's connected to my flat embellishment cluster. And now it's all starting to look very intentional just by adding that one little floral element. So we've got the black over here. We can bring black to this other side with these swirlies. Maybe add a second one there. And again, this is adding texture and dimension and layering to this embellishment cluster. And now it's not looking so flat. It's looking very intentional and part of the design. There are some leaves in these die cut shapes in a couple different sizes. I like the green ones. There's also some white leaves depending on your background. The green's going to stand out a little better, so I'm going to use those. And now I want to draw the floral elements to the upper right hand corner. There's a pink one which matches the lower, but I also have this doily piece in mist. I think this one stands out a little better because the background has more pink. And then let's go ahead and tuck a few leaves into this cluster as well. Now I think we can agree it needs a little bit more black, so let's add our extra swirl up top. I can always cut more if I need to. That is looking good. And I thought maybe I could add a little embellishment cluster up here. This is actually two pieces. There's the outer frame and then the inner piece, but I kind of like them together. And maybe something like that, kind of hanging down, or maybe coming in from the left-hand side of the page. I'm not really sure, but just kind of playing around, experimenting with that. It looks okay, but I don't think I really like it. I do have this vintage looking stamp. This is Thoughtful Tokens. It is no longer available. This was a stamp of the month, but I know a lot of you have this in your stash. And I feel like this little text stamp with the frame goes along very nicely with the look of this paper pack. So I'm just kind of getting a feel for what that might look like in that space, and I do like it. So I think I'm going to stamp it right onto my background using the mist ink. I've got that mounted on a block, and then we can go ahead and get this inked up. And since I don't have anything adhered down, I can very easily scoot those out of the way. So make sure everything's positioned where you want it. Hold your stamp over the area and then push the layers out of the way, and then you can put that right on the background in just the location you need it. Let's bring all these back in, and it looks kind of weird there by itself, but once we put everything together, it's going to look very intentional. And I think that looks pretty good. I also want to add some splatter. So I've got my all-purpose mat. Now this, I don't have mist in the shimmer brush, so this is actually Harbor, which is a much deeper color, but it kind of has like a bluish green to it, and I felt like it just went with the collection. So I am adding a very subtle amount. This is a little bit dry, so I'm going to squeeze out a little bit more of the shimmery goodness and then tap, tap, tap that onto my layout. I know you probably can't see that on camera as well as I can in person, but it does add a nice little element to the design. I usually cut this part out of the video where I am adhering my layers together, but I thought I would show you so you can get an idea for how much adhesive I use. I like to put it on the edges here and then maybe just a couple in the middle. I really don't use an excessive amount of adhesive. As long as you're using a good quality adhesive, you do not need to cover the entire piece. So just around the perimeter, couple in the middle, and then we can get this tacked down and make sure it's straight before you adhere everything really well. When adhering my photos, I tend to kind of stay away from the very edge so that I can tuck embellishments underneath the photo. And then I can always go back with a little glue and reinforce it when the layout is completed. For little intricate pieces like this viewfinder, I might add a little tape runner in the center on the bigger sections and then use this Barely Art Precision Tip craft glue to go around the, whoa, that was close, to go around the smaller, more intricate cuts of this piece. It's always nice to finish off these little die cuts with a little inking around the edge, or you can always stamp on die cuts. You can do all sorts of things, or just use them as is. I can bring in all of my little decorative elements here, tucking my viewfinder. And you know what? Half of that's actually hidden. Let's cut this right down the center. There's no sense in wasting it. I can use that on another project. That is a great way to stretch your crafty stash and, just get a little bit more, make it stretch a little further. As I mentioned in the beginning, this is a photo of my in-laws, Marianne and Jake, and this picture was actually taken at her senior prom in May of 1969. She was only 18 years old, and Jake was 21 at the time. She was finishing up high school, and Jake was in the Coast Guard, and they actually got married 1 month after the prom, after this picture was taken. So just lots of history in this one little moment here. I'm using that same liquid glue to adhere the film strip there, and then we can get all these pieces tacked down and then start working on the title, and then we'll still need to figure out the journaling. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I do not scrapbook chronologically, but I do organize my layouts chronologically in annual albums. Here is that Sweet Memories scrapbooking stamp, and I'm inking up the title Photo Memories. This layout will not fit into my annual album, but I do have kind of like a long lost memories, people I love type album, and all of these older photos go into that album. I did get the coordinating dies for this stamp set, so I can easily cut these out, and I recommend using the Post-it removable labeling tape to hold your dies securely in place while they go through the die cutting machine. I'm a stamp first and die cut second kind of crafter. You may like to die cut and then stamp it, whatever works for you. I also stamped and fussy cut this little piece. It's this decorative element from the same stamp, and I like the way that looks under there. I stamped the same title in mist, and I do like that, but you know what? I like the black. If you want to go with a softer color, go for it, but I just really like the pop of black with this layout. So I do have a couple little bits that will work for journaling. No, frame is definitely not right. I've got this little tag with journaling lines, and I have this also. I kind of like this with a little postage stamp. I don't have a ton to say, just the details, so I think this is going to work. I'm going to measure this and then use a text box in a Word document and type it out on sticker paper. This is Avery clear labeling tape, and I will have this in the description box below. This stuff is awesome. I highly recommend it, and it's acid-free, non-yellowing, so it's perfect for using it in your scrapbooks. And I also have this stamp set, and I am kind of in love with this stamp set because it just has a collection of sentiments on here that are very, very useful. I'm trying to find one that's going to fit and be appropriate for the layout. And you know what? I think I'm going to go with this one here. It says, "Life is a beautiful ride." It's one long stamp, and it's a little bit too long to fit the area, so I'm going to mask off a section of it and then stamp it in 2 different rows. And I want this to be very light and subtle, so I'm stamping it off once and then stamping directly for second generation. And that says "Life is A," and then we'll make sure it's really clean and dry, mask off the opposite side of this stamp, ink it up, and again, we want it second generation, so we will stamp off once. Oops, that didn't turn out quite right, so let me re-ink that up again. Remove the tape, stamp it off once, and then go direct to paper in second generation that says Beautiful Ride. The other half of this viewfinder is sitting here staring at me, and I thought, I like it right there, but now it's covering my stamping. I don't know. Do I like the stamping? I really do like the balance of that viewfinder. What if we tucked it behind the photo so we still have the look, but the stamping is showing? That works. Let's go with that. We can just slide that underneath there. See, I got 2 embellishments from one piece. Perfect. I did add a tiny little black paperboard heart to the journaling. That's from my stash. And yeah, I really like how this turned out. All of the fun layered embellishments. Everything I used to create this can be found in the description box below. And if you would like to see the still shots, you can check those out over on my social media accounts, also linked in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you very soon.